Welcome to Game Fondue Reviews. In this video, we're going to take a look at Machi Koro. Machi Koro is a fast-paced dice rolling game in which players are building up the town of Machi Koro. Let's jump right in with a description of the rules, see a few example turns being played, then I'll be back for some closing remarks. This is Machi Koro, set up for a 3-player game. To set up, each player just takes both of the starting establishments, and you can identify them by their golden back versus this greenish back that the normal establishments have. One is a wheat field, one is a bakery. They're going to put them face up in their area. Then they're going to put the 4 landmarks face down with the construction side up in their area as well. Aside from that, they're just going to take 3 money, and you're going to form a marketplace of all remaining establishments by putting them in face-up stacks of each card type. From there, you just pick a start player and you're ready to start the game. Players are going to take their turns in clockwise order, composed of 3 phases, which are roll the dice, earn income, and construction. The game ends when one player constructs all 4 of their landmarks, and at that time, that player wins. During the roll dice part of a player's turn, they're just going to pick up a die and roll it. Later in the game, after you've constructed your train station, you will be able to roll 1 or 2 die. And you don't have to roll 2, it's certainly optional. But if you choose to roll 2, it's always going to be the sum of the numbers. You can't break this into 2 3s, for instance. This would just be a 6. But for most of the game, early on, you're going to be rolling 1 die at this time. So after the player whose turn it is rolls the dice, all players are going to earn income based on the dice roll. So we see here, if this guy had rolled this 2, for instance, everybody who has cards that have a 2 on them, like this one here, are going to get what that card says. So in this case, the bakery gives you 1 coin from the bank on your turn only. There's 4 types of establishments in the game. The blue cards give you income during anybody's turn. So for instance, if he had rolled a 1, everybody with the wheat field would get 1 coin. If people had a whole bunch of wheat fields, they would get as many because the abilities do stack. Green cards, however, only give you income during your own turn, and red cards allow you to take money from the person who rolled the dice. So you can always take money except on your own turn because you're the one rolling the dice. And lastly, purple cards allow you to take money from everybody else, but that's only on your own turn when you are the one rolling the dice. So there's those 4 types there. There's blue, green, red, and purple, and they all work slightly differently. In the event of a timing conflict, you always resolve in the following order. Red first, then green and blue will go together, and then purple last. So an example of that would be if a 3 was rolled and a player had a red and another player, whoever rolled the dice, had a green. You know you would resolve this red first, so they would get to steal from the person who had rolled the dice before the person who had rolled the dice gets to add another coin to their area. That can be significant in case they don't have enough to pay them, because if you have a red card and you should steal from somebody and they don't have enough to pay you, they only pay you what they can. But it always resolves red, green, blue, and then purple. It's also possible that both of these players had red cards and this guy had rolled a 3. So in that case, he would owe both of them money. However, let's pretend he only has $1 left. He would always pay counterclockwise. So first he would pay this guy over here because he's to the right of him, but then he has no money left for this guy. So whenever there's a conflict for payment, you resolve it counterclockwise. But it still always goes in order from red cards to green to blue to purple. So after all players have earned their income based on the roll of the dice, we move on to the construction part of the turn. During the construction part of a turn, a player may construct 1 establishment or 1 landmark. In both cases, you just pay the cost of the bank. You can see the cost of an establishment in the corner here and the cost of the landmarks in the corner there. You can construct any establishment available. You don't have to do them in any particular order, but when you build them, you just put them right in your area like this. If you already have a building of that type, like you have another wheat field, it's easier just to stack them because their abilities do stack. The only exception here is you can only have 1 of each type of building with this symbol on it. So you can certainly have a stadium, a TV station, and a business center, but you cannot have 2 stadiums, for instance. And if you're constructing a landmark, you just turn it face up. So we would pay our 22 to the bank, we would turn this face up, and we would now have whatever ability it says on that card. And that's really all there is to it. After this player finishes their turn by constructing or choosing not to construct, goes on to the next player to start with rolling dice. The game continues until somebody's built their 4th landmark. When that player builds their 4th landmark, they are the winner. Let's get going with this example playthrough. We're going to have this guy go first, so he starts the turn by rolling the dice. He gets a 5. So anybody who had a card that has a 5 on it will get its effective this time. Right now we only have 1s, 2s, and 3s, so nobody has a card that is worth a 5, so nobody earns income. But during the construction phase, he decides he is going to build a forest by paying all 3 of his coins. We see here that the cost of a forest is 3, so he's just going to put that in his area. Now if somebody rolls a 5, he's going to get a coin. So we move on to the next guy. He rolls the dice, and he gets a 2. Now because people have cards with 2s, we're going to earn the income accordingly, but the only card people have is a green card, which only works on your own turn. So we know he gets 1 coin because he did roll it, and then now he can choose to construct something. He decides right away he's going to pay 4. He's going to build that train station, so he turns it face up. Now he can roll 1 or 2 dice during his turn. And the game's going to proceed like this. We're going to jump ahead a little bit later so you can see some more interesting situations. Welcome back. We progressed quite a bit in the game. Now all players have 3 of those 4 landmarks. They're all racing to complete that radio tower. It's this guy's turn, so he's going to roll the dice, and since he's the train station, he chooses to roll 2 dice. and he rolls a 6 and a 2, which he has to sum together. You always have to sum together the results of 2 dice, which is an 8. He has this card, which is a Furniture Factory for 8, and he gets 3 coins from the bank for each that symbol establishment he owns. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of that, so that's going to be 18 coins. Unfortunately for him, not quite enough to get what he wants to, and nobody else has any benefits from 8 because green cards only work on the turn you are the roller. So he's not quite up to 22, but he decides he'd like to buy something. He decides to buy another mine for 6. So he puts that money in the bank, and that mine goes to his area. So it's this guy's turn. He's also going to roll 2 dice. Now this guy has 3 mines, so that's 15 money. Each mine is worth 5 money. This guy himself has 1, so that's 5. And this guy over here does not have a mine. He's going to buy another mine himself. And then this guy over here is going to go. He's going to roll 2 dice, and he got a 12. Nobody has anything that's affected by a 12, but if he rolls doubles, he gets to go again, so he is going to take another turn right now. And he got a 10. He has an apple orchard, so that gives him 3 coins, and this guy has an apple orchard that also gives him 3 coins. So they're both going to take their coins, and then it's going to be this guy's turn. He rolls the dice, and he got a 6. With a 6, he can steal money from other players, but at this point it doesn't matter because he has plenty to build this, so he'll pay his 22, and he has won the game. Machi Koro is incredibly easy to teach. It can be taught in just a few moments to new players, which makes it really easy to get to the table, which is always a nice plus. Also, the turns themselves are very quick. You're essentially just rolling the dice and buying something, and everybody kind of collects the income by themselves at the same time. So it's not your turn. It's going to be shortly, and that always is good for keeping players engaged. My one gripe with the game is I do find it a bit repetitive, and certainly people are going to disagree with that, just within a game and then between games, because there's not a great deal of strategy. You're kind of at the mercy of the dice to some extent, regardless of what strategy you employ, whether you want lots of diverse numbers or some of a few numbers. But I do think the Harbor expansion clears that up a bit, so that's one alternative way to fix that there. But this is definitely a nice, light game that can be taught in a few moments. It'd be good for family type of settings. It's not much of, a gamer's game in that there's not a great deal of strategy, but it's fun to just kind of roll the dice and see where things go. So if it looked neat to you, check it out. That's Machi Koro.